Like many a gamer who are in their late 20s and early 30s nowadays, Bethesda was a major part of my teen years, with Skyrim costing me untold thousands of hours of my life on the PS3, and then Fallout 4 extracting a similar toll on the PS4. So, needless to say, I was pretty excited when the first trailers for the Fallout Amazon show were released and looked pretty decent. However, given the recent performance of the Halo show on Paramount Plus and the general history of video game adaptations, my expectations were lowered. But then, the show came out a couple of weeks ago, and to my and just about everyone else's surprise, first off, they dropped all 8 episodes at once. Second, it was really well done. Not only was the show well written, acted, and had great sets and props that looked like they came straight out of the game, it managed to actually translate Fallout's odd, dark humor really well, which really surprised me. Now, while I have only played Fallout 4 before this, I have watched my fair share of videos on the older Fallout games and the lore, so I know while 4 takes a bit of a lighter approach, the older games were much more grim, and that is reflected in the show really well. Now, while most of the audience seemed to really enjoy the show, there was this one group that managed to be quite loud online. The New Vegas fans. No matter where you go in the Fallout fan sphere, New Vegas fans will always be there telling you that New Vegas is a superior Fallout game because, well, supposedly Todd Howard hates New Vegas because it was made by Obsidian and not Bethesda themselves, and since it did very well, Todd therefore hates New Vegas and will do everything in his power to not incorporate any aspect of New Vegas that made it good into the newer Fallout games. And therefore, since Todd won't incorporate any of those elements that made New Vegas good into any of the newer Fallout games, anything post-New Vegas made by Bethesda is just garbage in their minds. So, minor spoilers ahead for the show, by the way. Because of this, New Vegas fans went mental when they saw Shady Sands, the capital of the NCR, the New California Republic, which is one of the 2 settings of New Vegas, had been nuked. And since none of them can read a timeline all that well, they assumed it took place during or before the events of New Vegas, therefore making New Vegas not canon, so they assumed Todd Howard was retconning New Vegas out of existence. They managed to create such a stir online that Todd Howard himself had to clarify that yes, New Vegas in canon. No, Shady Sands wasn't nuked during the events or before the events of New Vegas.
Just so people here I know are watching this, like, we're careful about the timeline. There might be a little bit of confusion in some places, but everything that happened in the previous games, including New Vegas, happened. We're very careful about that.
And even despite a relatively intact New Vegas being shown at the end of the show, New Vegas fans couldn't be satiated and started attacking anyone online that liked the show, even going after people online that started to get into the Fallout games because of the show, all because they started with Fallout 4, the newest game in the franchise that isn't Fallout 76, right? You're attacking people who are getting into your franchise that hasn't had a decent release in 10 years? Because they're not doing it your way. Think about that for a second. So I found myself thinking, if New Vegas fans are this passionate and energetic and dedicated about this game, then surely it's worth checking out. So instead of, like a lot of players getting into Fallout, or back into Fallout because of the show, I didn't download Fallout 4 because I already had it downloaded on my computer. I downloaded Fallout New Vegas and set out to explore the Mojave and see what all the noise was about. So come join me as I, someone who's only played Fallout 4 in the Fallout franchise, explored New Vegas and see if, it really warrants this level of fanaticism. So if you're new here to video games and Bethesda titles in general, one does not simply download any Bethesda title, except for maybe Starfield, without first checking out what the required mods are. You see, Bethesda games, for all their worth, I don't know what they're doing in that studio, but they cannot release a game without it having a gajillion bugs. And while yes, Obsidian made Fallout New Vegas, it ain't that much different from the other Bethesda titles at all. So off the bat, I had to download 4 mods simply to get the game to run well on my modern PC, because it has an issue with memory. It has, oh my god, so many bugs that cause it to crash apparently. So I just hit the forums, downloaded the required mods. That was all set and good. So on top of those mods, I did also download a couple of texture mods for the terrain, for the character models, and for the weapons. So obviously, if you go download the vanilla version of Fallout New Vegas, it's not going to look like this. And the game was still crashing from time to time, but I'm going to just toss that up to my mods, right? And it would crash like once every hour or so. So nothing really terrible for a 14-year-old game that I'm running at this point 15 mods on. So just wanted to throw that out there as far as the game's technical performance goes. But anyway, let's talk about the game itself. So unlike apparently every other Fallout game, you don't start out as a vault dweller. Instead, you are a courier who gets ambushed by Chandler Bing.
Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
Hey, Chandler, look, you're in here too.
And shot in the head for a platinum chip for some reason, like a poker chip. So after being dug out of the desert by a robotic police officer, you wake up in General Tullius's house?
Just relax a second. Get your bearings. Let's see what the damage is.
Are you sure this wasn't made by Bethesda? Now after you get done prancing around in Good Spring for a little bit, which is kind of like the tutorial area, you're free to go wherever you want to go. And by the way, I asked for advice, and some of you are liars. And speaking from the point of view of somebody that's played, again, thousands of hours of Skyrim and thousands of hours of Fallout 4, the gameplay isn't a whole lot different from what I've seen in other Bethesda titles. A lot of the quests I've done so far, and keep in mind, again, I haven't completed the game by any stretch of the imagination. I've dumped, I think, 30 hours into it over the past couple of weeks. But so far, man, these quests seem very, very, very similar to the quests you find in Skyrim and in Fallout 4. It's go to this place. You want information or something from somebody. Well, they need you to go do something. For example, I'll use Novak as an example. So go to Novak. You're looking for the fellow that shot you in the head. Well, one of the guys there met with him and knows who he is. However, in order for him to give you that information, you need to go over to this rocket laboratory or assembly plant or whatever and clear out the ghouls, because the townsfolk makes their living off of going into that rocket facility and scavenging for pre-war tech. But the ghouls are overrunning it now, so you have to go there, clear them out, and then he will give you the information that you want. Okay, cool. You go over there, you go into the facility, you start blasting these ghouls. There's a ton of them there, but then suddenly when you get into the inside, someone pages you on the speaker, they summon you up to the top floor, and turns out there are some ghouls there being led by a very shiny fellow who has a very funny name, and they're wanting to use the rockets to complete their great journey, whatever they were calling it. And they're not going to leave until either you help them leave or you, well, slaughter all of them. Okay, well, after you go on his little side quest for some time, which is a pretty fun quest, it's got a really neat ending and all that jazz. I enjoyed myself. Well, now you've cleared the ghouls out of that facility. You go back to the fellow from beforehand, tell him that the ghouls are gone, and he tells you what you want to know, which leads you to your next quest destination. And so far along the main quest, it's been a lot of that, which is, again, very similar to most of the other quests that you'll find in Skyrim and Fallout 4 and other Bethesda titles. Just rinse, wash, and repeat. Now, where the differences that I'm noticing between Fallout 4 and Fallout New Vegas is obviously, one, the main character isn't voice acted, which, you know, I thought it was cool that, you know, your character was voice acted in Fallout 4. Some do like that, some don't like that. I understand both sides of the argument. It's not a huge deal for me either way. I just think it's cool that they go through the effort of, you know, getting someone to read all of those lines, but of course, when you are selecting dialogue and there's no voice actor there, you're free to kind of interpret however your player character says it, right? But if there's a voice actor there, then obviously they're going to say it however they're instructed to read the line in the studio, so it may not come out with how you think it'll come out. And in Fallout 4, there are some voice dialogue options that just don't make any sense with what's, prompted on the screen versus what your character says, so I think that's a pretty fair and just argument against that feature. But if you look at something like Mass Effect, where you have a voice character all the way through, it can be done well. So that's that. But yeah, that is one big major difference. But there are, of course, definitely more actual RPG elements in Fallout New Vegas. It's a lot deeper, a hell of a lot deeper than what you'll find in Fallout 4. That is one of the bigger things that I did notice. The other thing is that the gunplay in New Vegas isn't anywhere as good as the gunplay in Fallout 4. I don't know what it is with it. The guns feel kind of stiff, and they don't really give a good feeling of weight or feedback to them being fired and such. It didn't really feel any different for me firing the 9mm pistol versus firing the cowboy rifle. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't feel good. But in Fallout 4, it does feel a lot better. It's hard to put my finger on exactly what it is. Like, the animations for reloading look great and all, especially again for a 14-year-old game, so I'm not really talking about that. Just the way the guns feel and the gunplay works, it just doesn't feel as good as Fallout 4. Again, I can't really put my finger on it. Fallout 4's gunplay just feels better. Now, when it comes to the setting of New Vegas is pretty interesting. The Mojave Desert, but my God, it feels like a friggin' desert. You'll be walking for like 10, 15 minutes with nothing happening. There's no monsters around, there's no NPCs around. It's just you, the road, or the sand, or whatever it is that you're walking through at the moment. And you're going to be doing that quite a lot from what I've seen. Which is very strange for a Bethesda game, because Skyrim, you had to do a hell of a lot of walking too. But it seemed like in Skyrim, like, around every corner, there was something to do. A cave, a raider camp, a patrol, a fort, or something to distract you from your main quest. In New Vegas, it's just kind of empty. I mean, every now and then there is, like, an outpost or a group of survivors or settlers or a trader or something every now and then, but it just feels very empty. And I know it's the Mojave Desert. People aren't going to be exactly everywhere, and that could just be a styling choice for the setting, but it just feels really empty, and walking everywhere and just holding W for 15 minutes at a time, it's not a terribly enjoyable experience. And Fallout 4 had its long stretches too, but it was a lot more condensed with things that you could run into, be it, a building you could scavenge in, or again, a settlement, or some raiders or something. Because, it is set in Boston, which is a much more condensed area than the Mojave Desert. Don't get me wrong about that. It just feels like they could have, bumped up the random interactions, the raiders or something along the way. And there is, again, interesting stuff that you can bump into along your journey. But it just feels really, really empty for some reason. So that, I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of that. But once you get to where you're going, there's interesting stuff there. Again, there's people you can interact with, side quests you can go on. I just didn't have as many of those, oh, what's over there moments as I did with Skyrim and Fallout 4. Now, probably the biggest difference and the biggest pickup, definitely in New Vegas' favor, is the story. The story, at first, it didn't really hook me that well. But once I got going into it and I got further along into the main quest line, the story really hooked me. And, Skyrim's main story didn't really hook me all that well. I didn't complete Skyrim's main story on my first playthrough. I think until I was like level friggin' 40, right? So I just walked in and kind of two-tapped Alduin and dipped out. Fallout 4, same thing. I was not feeling pressured at all to do anything about finding my kid. I was having fun running around and shooting super mutants in the face, right? But in New Vegas, I want to know who Chandler Bing is. I want to know, why did he shoot me? What's the thing with the platinum token chip, right? Or the platinum chip, whatever it's called, right? Why did Chandler Bing shoot me, and what's going on? And that was a very compelling plot point I found to keep pushing the plot forward. And I was always intrigued about, the things I started to discover along the way and such. So the story was a lot more interesting, and I don't want to really spoil it because I'm assuming, if you're watching this, you probably haven't played New Vegas. But yeah, the story is much better in New Vegas than in Fallout 4, and that is true, most definitely, hands down. So here at the end, New Vegas. Is it a good game? Absolutely, no doubt in my mind. It's got a nice balance of the first-person, third-person shooting aspects that I enjoy about Fallout 4. It's got some more in-depth role-playing options there. The dialogue system is better. Voiced or unvoiced protagonists, no doubts about that. And the setting is just a little bit, again, empty for my taste. And again, that might have been a design decision. Like, hey, this is the Mojave Desert. There ain't a whole lot out here for you to do because it is literally a desert. But I don't know. I just feel like you could have populated it a little bit more, in my opinion at least. And I do see why people do enjoy the game. It's a good game. It's a fun game. I'm having fun in it. I'm intrigued by the story. I do think, again, its story is miles better than Fallout 4. And I think if going forward, Bethesda can take the role-playing aspects of Fallout New Vegas and the story of Fallout New Vegas, at least a story to that caliber, and combine it with the gunplay from Fallout 4, I think they could have a real banger on their hands with Fallout 5, with whatever they decide to do with that game. And as far as I'm concerned, the only downside of New Vegas are these ravenous fans that just are convinced Todd Howard hates New Vegas and he hates the game, even though he's come out and said he does quite enjoy it and it's canon. And I mean, they're even, obviously Fallout Season 2 is going to be taking place in New Vegas. He would have just nuked the city, the entire city, if he wanted to, and made it a crater in the earth if he truly hated the game that much. But no, it's very clear that at least a sizable chunk of Fallout Season 2 is going to take place in New Vegas. And after playing the game, I'm excited to see it come to the big screen, even though I've only been a New Vegas player for the past 9 days, right? So, yeah, it's a great game. It's like $9 on Steam. You can mod it. It's a little tricky to mod. You should definitely look up some guides on how to do so properly, and unless you want to be kind of scratching your head for the first couple of days like I was. But yeah, great game. I enjoy it. I just wish New Vegas fans understood that Caesar's Legion was not meant to be a model to copy their entire lifestyle after. So, I'll leave it there, guys. Let me know what you guys think about New Vegas in the comments down below if you decide to check it out, or if you've already been a player for quite some time. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Sunday and a wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.